Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Victoria Grinman. I'm here with Vanna Gogo, and I'm here also with Randy Goldfarb. Randy, hello.
Hello. How
So
are
it's
you?
amazing. You and I actually just had a good hour's worth of conversation and
Yeah.
kind of diving into things that matter. And now we're here talking about something super important. There's a lot to unpack here. Actually, when I posted this particular topic, I received so many different messages saying, oh, wow, this is a lot to unpack. This is a really, really great topic. This is something that, we want to hear about. So our topic today is intentional kiddos, right? Is intentional life skill and how can we actually teach it to kids? So, I mean, I've got a lot to say about this because for me, living with intention is something that I am actually practicing on a daily basis. And I've recognized how important it is that when something goes well or when something is successful, I don't want it to be like, well, oh, it just happened. It just kind of fell from the sky this way. I want to know, how did I get to this result? How is it that life is unfolding in this way? And yeah, there are factors that we cannot control, but there are also things that when we do things with intention, we have this structure, we have this understanding of why we're doing something, how we're doing something, and why certain things are happening the way that they are. And so intentionality is a very, very important piece of like my joy, my happiness, my ability to be successful and also sane in a very, very, very busy world. So very important topic. What are your thoughts about intentionality and living with intention just in general?
So I would say kind of similar, because I do find that the more I pay attention to the the way in which things happen for me and how I choose to respond is very significant, because I agree with you. If we sort of just live like that life as if, things just happen and we just kind of go day to day without giving it much thought, I think we lose out on a lot of potential, um, and of the opportunities for gratitude and growth, really, because the more you pay attention, the more you have a sense that it's not just something that's happening to you, but it's something that you are happening with it in a way. And it's a really important thing, and it gives perspective. And I think that's something that being intentional really does. And I think it's really important. And I don't think kids are in tuned, automatically to have perspective about things necessarily.
So can you break down what intention actually means? I know that you had like a definition for it. Can you share it with everybody?
Yeah, so I came across something through the work of conscious discipline. And I wanted to read it exactly if I could, because I think it really reflects well what we're talking about. So it says, our intention as we approach a situation influences the outcome in a profound way. So that, I think, is it, because if you go into a situation frazzled and annoyed and frustrated and kind of in that zone, the way you're going to present is going to be in that space. And chances are you may not necessarily feel good, or others may not feel good with that. But if you go into a situation, even if it's difficult, or even if it's a wonderful thing, with the intention of either appreciation or the intention of, I'm going to try to figure this out, you come in with a different focus that I think allows for things to unfold differently with the other people that are involved.
Yeah, I love that so much. I guess we're jumping right into how to do this with kids and ourselves, because I just think about myself in the mornings when I am in a place where I follow my schedule. I'm meditating, I have my favorite drink in the morning. I, go for a walk. I take care of Vanna, right? When I have my, structure down and I actually follow it, I'm able to enter my day with a sense of purpose, with a sense of, clarity around what there is to do and why I'm doing it. But there are days where if I'm like traveling and coming back from somewhere and just was on the red eye and I'm like all over the place and there's no intentionality around what I'm about to do, I feel the sense of chaos and havoc and overwhelm and, oh my God, all these things are happening. So
Right.
how do we as adults create intentional days, and then how do we actually model that for kids? Like, what are your thoughts about that?
Right. So it's a good question because it's a bit of a topic I think is not, like I said before, it's not necessarily intuitive to kids to be intentional. And it all comes back to, I think our theme always comes back to, is the more we, like you, the more we incorporate being intentional ourselves, and then around children, they are going to pick up and learn how to be intentional and why it matters. If we don't do that ourselves, then it's much harder for them to do that, because it is a nuanced type of experience. It's different than you know I don't know, I feel like it's not such a intention is not such a concrete concept in a
So let's
way.
bring it let's bring it
Yeah.
to like reality, right? Like if I'm with children, one way that I and even with myself, one of the things that I always make sure that I do is I ask why. When I was a kid, we used to have this big book of why. It was called the Big Book of Why. I think there were two
Yeah.
of them, and they were
Yes.
thick. And I think we have them still somewhere. My mom, I'm sure, has it somewhere.
Yes.
But I remember this like culture around. But why? But like why? Why is this? Why is that? Right? And it's a little annoying to us adults. It's like, just do what I say in this moment.
Right.
We got to go, right? But we have to remember that the why is the foundation of a lot of the things that we do and a lot of the decisions that we make. And we don't grow into adults that start asking why at the age of 30. We start from right? We can. I mean, there's so many programs and so many conversations I've been in that have really pushed this. But why? What is your why? Why are you doing this? What's your intention? But it's much easier when we raise intentionally conscious children. And we can start by answering the questions that come to us, like why are we doing this? Or, who wants to take a guess as to why we do it this way, right? Or why should we do it that way? Or why should we do this today? Like what's there for us about this, right? Like instead of just going with the flow of the way things have been done generation after generation or day after day.
Right. Yeah. So yes. So as you're saying that, it was actually, I just sort of had this memory pop up. So I was a kid who asked a lot of whys. And even as an adult, I always ask, like, why? I don't understand what was behind. So I think one of the things that is such a powerful way of learning to do this for ourselves, but also helping kids, is questioning, asking questions. What were you thinking about when you did A or B? Or, I was thinking that, this morning I could have this, like really sort of, because I think we're used to also around children is we want to tell them how to do things. Because young kids don't know. So we're so used to saying, go brush your teeth, for example, or go clean up now, or, it's time to do this. And we kind of want kids to do things based on command often. But I think if we bring the piece of questioning, or even saying, I wonder what we should do next and why are we doing that next?
I
Or,
love it. Yeah.
that's a big way to get those sort of that thinking awakened.
I love it. What you're really bringing up is this concept we've talked about before, just problem solving and getting kids in the habit of, being in a solution focused sort of mentality. So instead of being told what to do and then following the rule of doing it, first, thinking about what are the different ways that I can do it and what are the different things that can be done to, remediate this issue or, kind of, solve this problem that we have. Because kids do get in the habit of just listening to what we say they should do without like stopping and asking, but why? And we have to encourage that, don't we? Right? There are things that we encourage the why. We can encourage the why and explain, right? And kind of maintain this engagement while still having appropriate boundaries for children who require boundaries. Because when kids are young, they do require boundaries and to know, because of safety, what they can and cannot get into, and but we can still encourage the why.
Absolutely.
I think
and I was thinking actually,
we definitely have a technical lag.
Yes, it's lagging a drop.
Yeah, which is totally fine. We're going to intentionally move forward.
Yes.
But go ahead, Randy. I'd love to hear some of your ideas because you've been working with families and schools and teachers for a very long time. And I think that there's a habit of just kind of going with the flow of how things have been done. How do we break that up? So we can ask why, we can encourage problem solving and discussion around certain topics. We can certainly prepare ourselves for our day and model that kind of, setting ourselves up for the day, understanding the purpose for why we go to school, why we're doing our homework, why we eat our vegetables, why we go for walks and move our bodies, right? There's that why. What other ways do you feel parents and school staff can infuse the day with intention?
So it's a great question. And it does come up a lot in the work that I do. And I find that there's a typical way of, I kind of think of it like when we learn about chores that you can give children to do, so many times teachers or parents, and maybe parents sometimes more than teachers, because I would like to think teachers are more in a mindset of I have to let children try things out and see how they can do it. But I think, as an example for a parent, you want your child to, let's say, fold something, right? But they're not necessarily, especially a young child, not necessarily going to fold it the way you do. And it's not going to be as nice and tidy and organized. And so the question is, do you still have them do it and tolerate the way it is and it being a little messy without fixing it per se, until they are seeing that it's something they can do, and then work on sort of building the skill piece of it could look nice too. So I think, I notice also that with teachers, many times we talk about, if a child is having a hard time holding or grasping, we have to come up with other ways to help them learn how to do that and use other manipulatives and things like that. And it may be affecting their ability to write. Sometimes when it comes to emotions, and where intent might actually be really significant, we don't tend to necessarily always remember to make those adjustments when we see someone is having a hard time. So I think it's also being in the mindset of our intention, I believe, as adults, can be that we are meant to be a guide to the kiddos around us, but we are also meant to be a searcher and a seeker, because we are not the only ones with all the answers, and that children can actually guide us as well. And I think that intention changes the way you allow children to do trial and error, let's say.
Yeah, I love that a lot. And I think what you're bringing up is the idea of intentional parenting, right? And I love how anytime we talk about this, it always goes back to us as adults. Like, how are we stepping up to infuse our lives and our way of being with intention? Because it really does trickle down, and it's important that we model exactly what we're looking for. And so, being intentional in the sense that we are setting ourselves up for success in modeling this with kids. I think that's really, really important. And I always say that, I say that so much, is that, people always say, what's the number one thing that we need to understand about kids? What's the number one thing that we should say? What's the number one thing we should do? And I can give you a million strategies.
Yes.
But my point at the end of the day is always, if you're not doing it, you can't give somebody something you don't have yourself. So
That's
if
right.
you're not, starting your day with an intentional, step forward, your child is noticing that nervous, overwhelmed energy. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with being overwhelmed. We just have to know that it impacts, children in that way, where they're watching that. And so we always need to think about put the mask on first. What do I have to do to really bring this concept in perspective for myself in my own life as a friend, an individual, a mother, father, grandparent, whatever. And then think about, what are the words, what are the ways of being that I can utilize with my children that will help them take this on as a way of being? So we can never get away from really working on ourselves, can we?
No. It's not an option, truthfully. And I love that you brought up that it's okay if we're overwhelmed and things like that. I think it's important for us to be sure that everyone's understanding that we're not expecting perfection and always having, that perfect, intentional, wonderfulness all the time. I think the piece that is very important, that I find that I work on with teachers a lot and with parents and kids actually, is recognizing that we are shifting beings, and that we are often going to pivot in different directions, and that's okay. And the question is noticing pivots and noticing when we want to be able to say, I'm human, this is hard, I'm so overwhelmed today, but I can manage this. I'm going to. You think about it maybe differently. I'm going to focus on what is going well, so that I don't let that sort of color my whole day. And I wanted to share, Victoria, because this is one of my favorite books. I could hold it up, Pete the Cat and His Magic Sunglasses. It's really one of my favorites. It's because it's kind of talking about what we're talking about. Pete is going around town and noticing his friends who are in certain moods, and yet there's these sunglasses that sort of magically help everyone see things differently. And the wise owl, because something happens to the glasses, says, you don't really need the glasses. It's all a question of what you're looking for. But the glasses are a wonderful metaphor to really remind us that we can look at a situation with many different lenses. And those lenses help us focus on what's important and can help us pivot when when it's hard, because some days it's hard. We live in very chaotic, difficult times, and certainly with school and, are we going to school? Are we not? Is there mandates for this? Are there mandates for that? What are we going to do if there's so much going on in our world? And I think if we realize how we view things and which glasses we're putting on as we enter into an engagement with someone, it really can help us kind of see the potential and know that shifting is a healthy way to look at different situations and pivoting.
What a beautiful message to really wrap up with. I think that so many of the times, even when I'm working with people, I'm a master of assessment, and I assess always, what is this person's intention? Because if their intent, and I will always ask, is your intention to be right? Because or is it to understand? Is it to, be on the same page? And whether I ask an individual or a kid or a couple that is having, struggles and challenges, that question of what is your intention always brings us back to, oh yeah, my behavior is being, guided by a specific intention. And sometimes I'm not even sure what my intention is. Let me look what my behavior is being guided by. And if it's to be right, well, you're doing a great job, but it's obviously not to be right. You want to connect, but the only way you know is to do it this way. If your intention was to really connect and understand, how would your behavior shift? Your perspective, right, shift our behavior. So I love that you brought up that point, and that book is incredible. It is also one of my favorites. So any parents out there, this is a really great opportunity to open this conversation up to your kids. And I think, Randy, this is a topic that we can have as, a conversation point later on down the road as well. I think as we as a society make decisions, as we, go into a new school year with all sorts of things going on, we have to, and it's fast, right? Things are happening in a very, very fast way. We do have to collect ourselves and be very intentional about what we're doing and why we're doing it. And I think, and you and I have brought about some really great tips. If anyone here has any other things to share or other tips, please do comment. This is streaming on other platforms, so please do comment, share your knowledge. And if you are interested in working with either one of us to really build an intentional toolbox, an intentional muscle for yourself, for your kids, reach out. Randy is available, and so am I, for a conversation or a consult. All right, Randy, we have to wrap up. Any last words before we go?
I would say, I find visual cues are helpful when it comes to things like this. And I think of the colored sunglasses, colored lenses, and sort of imagining yourself shifting the lenses on certain scenes or situations to see that there's opportunities, bring intentionality in, and that it can look different in different situations. And I think that would be my sort of wish, that we can think that way and realize that we have lots of different ways we can understand things, and bring that to situations, and it really will uplift those around us.
I love that so much. And it brings me to this thought of just having an intention of being curious. Like, what can this person teach me?
Absolutely.
What are they saying that can... Yes, I love it. Like, look for what you can learn. My mom always says, Victoria, there's always something you can learn from somebody's situation or the situation. There's always something that you can find. Amazing. Gosh, I love having these conversations with you. We don't have anything on the book yet, but we are going to continue these conversations. Please look out for other ads and other conversations.
We'll be back.
And we'll talk to you soon. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.